Dr. Vella here. We are now in chapter 5. So, here we are when Nick is coming home. This is right after he had met with Jordan at the plaza, okay, which was the same day in that afternoon that he met with Jay at lunch and met Meyer Wolfsheim, okay. So, he gets home and he is worried his house is on fire because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and the whole place is blazing with light. And it was lit from tower to cellar, okay? And at first, Nick thinks it's Jay's having another party, but it doesn't seem like he's having a party. It just seems like all the lights are on for whatever reason, okay? Jay talks to him and says, hey, let's go for a ride, maybe let's go to the pool. And then finally, Gatsby has this suppressed eagerness. He's hoping Nick will say something to him about this, and sure enough, Nick says, okay, yeah, I talked with Miss Baker, and I'll call up Daisy and invite her over. All right? So, and then Jay offers Nick a little something. He says, hey, sport, you don't make much money, do you? It's kind of an odd question to ask somebody, especially when you live in the mansion and they live in the bungalow next to you. But then Jay offers him, well, I've got a little opportunity for you. It can make you some money. But Nick refuses it because he sees that this is an offer that is obviously and tactlessly for a service to be rendered. Basically, Jay's trying to pay him off for getting him together with his cousin, right? And Nick wants no part of it and just says, I don't want to be part of it. So it's off, okay? And that's fine. Nick doesn't bring it up again, okay? He calls Daisy, tells her to come to tea, and don't bring Tom. It's pouring rain that day. There's flowers. A whole greenhouse arrives, so Gatsby has had flowers sent over. You know, Gatsby's like pale and nervous, signs of sleeplessness, right? For a guy who's always been so cool and collected, right? This is the time when we see Gatsby just being like not himself, right? He's checked the papers about the rain. Then he's worried that Daisy's not going to show up. He says, nobody's coming. It's too late. And Nick's just like, don't be silly. It's just 2 minutes. And then finally they hear the car. Daisy is coming up. But then, Nick tells Daisy, tell your driver to go away for an hour, come back in an hour. And then Nick leads Daisy in to the house in the living room, and then he's like, wait, what? There's no one in here, right? The room was deserted. He expected Jay to be in there. But of course, Jay had a different plan, all right? And that plan is that he wanted to come in through the front door and make it seem to Daisy like he wasn't there beforehand, right? So, Nick opens the door. Gatsby, pale as death, hands plunged in his weights in his coat pockets. This is a nervous man, glaring tragically into my eyes. Okay? He stalked by me in the hall, turned sharply as if he were on a wire, and disappeared in the living room. Okay? And so for a moment, Daisy and Jay are in the living room together, and Nick's not there yet. All right, he just hears something, a choking murmur, and then Daisy's voice. Notice Fitzgerald is very careful about when he gives us access, right? Nick doesn't have access to this first encounter between, this re-encounter between Jay and Daisy. All right, so now Jay tells Nick, oh, we've met before. There's all this kind of awkwardness. And finally we get a very specific date, which is that Daisy and Jay haven't seen themselves in 5 years. It'll be 5 years in November. Remember, we're in the summer. We're in July right now. We're in late July. So 5 years in November since they've seen each other. 6 years since they met. All right. Okay. So Nick says, hey, I'm going to leave you guys alone. He tries to do it, under the table. But he says, I'm going to leave you alone. And Jay comes out and says, oh my God, this is a bad idea. This is a terrible mistake, right? He's all nervous. He's all embarrassed. And we see Jay acting like a little boy, right? Is what Nick says to him. So here's this super rich guy all of a sudden reduced to being like this little boy, basically. All right. And he's also being a little rude because he's leaving Daisy in that room alone. Okay. Anyway, so Jay and Daisy are left in the room together. Nick goes out and goes for a walk. And he eventually comes back. And the rain is stopped. Okay. Nick comes in to his own house after making every possible noise in the kitchen, short of pushing over the stove. And why do you make noise like that, right? You want to let them know, like, hey man, if you guys are getting jiggy with it, go ahead and stop and get dressed again, or whatever the hell's happening in here. He comes back into the living room. Daisy's face is smeared with tears, and Gatsby has gone from being embarrassed and scared and stressed to now being literally glowing. Right? He's got this exultation. He's back with Daisy. He's back in her presence. All that he's wanted for all these years is right here in front of him. Okay. And now I'm going to pause because the next step is that Jay asks Daisy and Nick to come over to his house. He'd like to show her around. You sure you want me to come? Absolutely, old sport. This is kind of like using, Nick as the third wheel. Like, oh, see, we weren't really getting busy because, obviously Nick was there, right? It's not like Jay taking a married woman into his house. He's taking a married woman and her cousin. Couldn't be anything nefarious or untoward about that. We'll see about all that. Okay? I'm going to break right now with this screencast, and we'll do part 2 of this chapter when they go to Gatsby's house. All right.